Hey guys, in this little movie I'm running with Sheryl, friend of mine from Edmonton, and she's one of the first people I ever seen running in a barefoot or minimalist kind of shoe. So I wanna kinda give her space to tell you her story why she running in such a shoes.
I transitioned into barefoot or minimalist running in 2010. For me, it was a transition into toe shoes, which basically have no support and offer only a thin protective layer for running over broken glass, as an example. At the time, I had finished my first marathon and I was injured. X-rays showed that I had heel spurs, a result of almost 15 years of plantar issues. Orthotics had only produced temporary relief, and now I was being told that I had to stop running. I was understandably quite upset and unwilling to concede. So I began to research options that were not as mainstream. I read a book about ski running, and I began to learn about what is called this natural running. My curiosity was piqued, and I figured I had nothing to lose since I was being told I couldn't run anyhow. What I was doing essentially wasn't working. For me, this meant I had to learn to change my form. I had to stop heel striking and alter everything about my running form, which at that time was lazy at best. I had a weak core and weak hip flexors, and especially weak ankles and feet. However, with a lot of persistence and concentration, I slowly began to shift my form so that I landed initially more forefoot because I overcompensated, which is common, and then eventually midfoot. 5 years later, my running form looks completely different. And as a caveat, I should say there are some natural runners, and I know many of them that I see at races that have a very strong natural form in whatever they run in. For me, that was not the case. I had to unlearn a lot of bad habits and relearn them in a new way, and minimalist running allowed me to do that because I couldn't cheat. So when I began to change my form, I actually got slower. I wasn't efficient, and I had to think way too much during every run. Occasionally, I would get tired, and I'd slam my heels into the ground, and then I'd have swelling and pain for a few days. The minimalist shoes did not let me cheat, which was challenging and exhausting. They also made my calves work harder, as shoes with rise often bypass, to some extent, the calves. So I was having to strengthen my calves. However, as my feet and my ankles, my calves, my core, and my hips got stronger, I became more efficient. I had better leg turnover, and I got faster. I now run about a minute per kilometer faster than before I transitioned at any distance. Wearing minimalist shoes means that I feel everything, and that took time for my feet to become less sensitive. Like the first time you walk barefoot on your driveway at the beginning of summer, everything was sensitive. It also took time, about 9 months, to gradually transition from typical running shoes safely into full-time use of toe shoes. I was used to running with my feet trapped inside what were essentially blocks of cement. Imagine that you break your leg and it is put in a cast. The muscles atrophy. It is the same thing with running shoes. However, as I transitioned over time, my feet's muscles and tendons got stronger. After about 9 months, I was up to 20K in the shoes. It still took me a few years to get every part of my body working strong without aches and niggling pains. My ankles took a couple years before, after each run, they didn't hurt a bit. But I really listened to my body and tried to make sure I was understanding what is just my feet getting stronger versus a potential injury. After about 9 months of running, I was up to 20K in the shoes, and now 5 years later, I can run any distance in them up to my maximum distance, which has been 50K. When I'm asked if minimalist running works, I explain that it's more than a technique or a style. It's a philosophy of running. I believe that our best running form is our most natural running form. If we can return our bodies to their most natural running state, we are more likely to run with less injuries and greater efficiencies. The risk of injury is in transitioning too soon, becoming impatient. We have to respect our bodies. In that sense, practicing yoga had really helped me transition. I had started yoga about a year before I started minimalist running, and I believe it gave me the self-awareness to respect my body and make a successful transition without injuring. It doesn't mean that I don't use other shoes. I believe shoes are a tool and can be used for specific purposes. I rarely race in toe shoes because I know that I'm pushing myself, often over technical terrain, and all it takes is one trip for me to break a toe. Plus, because running minimalist is actually harder and more work, when I race, if I put a shoe with even just a 3mm lift on it, I can actually race faster. So it gives me the advantage I need. It's about purpose and function. One of my favorite things about barefoot running is feeling the earth beneath my feet. Personally, I think having toes free to grip the ground is a key component to form and balance and health. Not all barefoot runners believe that. I follow my own path. But the connection I feel with the ground, whether it's on a soft trail that almost feels like it's massaging my feet, or over a sharp shale on a mountaintop, the sensory feedback allows for me to make quick adjustments and often adds to the enjoyment I feel on a run. I feel much more connected to the world around me, like I'm an extension of nature, rather than fighting against it to survive.